Good morning and welcome to our second in our series of sermons on the book of Romans. In our first sermon last time we saw that Paul introduced us to the topic of the letter, which was the gospel. And Paul said to us that he is not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for the salvation of all those who believe, first the Jew and then the Gentile. And indeed we saw that the gospel is mankind's only hope of salvation. Mankind's only hope. And today Paul begins to explain to us why it is mankind's only hope, what that even means. It is the only hope of mankind because mankind faces the wrath of God because of our sin. The wrath of God, he says, is being revealed against the sin of man. Now this isn't a popular teaching these days. People rather not think about the wrath of God, the judgment of God, the punishment of God. They rather only think about his love. Listen to what Harry Emerson Fosdick, he was a liberal pastor in the the early 20th century. He wrote a book called A Guide to Understanding the Bible. Listen to what he says in this book. Early man had a devilish concept of God. Noah's God caused the flood. Abraham's God was a bloodthirsty God who wanted a human sacrifice. Moses' God was a frightening God who spoke with thunder and volcanic smoke at Mount Sinai. Little by little, man advanced as the centuries rolled on. David had high ethical thoughts about God, but they were mixed with the terrible imprecatory psalms, which called for the wrath to be showered upon the enemy. By the time of the prophets, God was really improving. He spoke out against the crimes committed by men. And when Jesus came along, the marvelous concept of God's fatherhood and our brotherhood were born. But Jesus had the repugnant idea of hell, of which he spoke so much. This must be abandoned if we are to continue the upward trend of development. You hear that? We are to disregard some of our Lord's teachings if we are to continue upward. So in the Old Testament, according to this confused man, in the Old Testament we see an angry, vengeful God. And in the New Testament we see a loving, gracious, merciful God. Now, this quote that I just read may have shocked you and may horrify you, and I really hope that it does. But unfortunately, a lot of people still think that way. Maybe more than ever. We like the God of the New Testament, but not the God of the Old Testament. And of course this is completely wrong. It demonstrates a complete lack of understanding of just who God is. God has never changed through eternity past, and he won't change in eternity future. A deeper study or a deeper understanding will show that God displays amazing love, amazing patience and grace and mercy throughout the Old Testament. And of course the New Testament does show the wondrous love, grace, mercy of God. But it also speaks about his wrath against sin and his judgment and his punishment of sin. And by the way, we never just speak about God's anger. We never speak about his wrath or his punishment or judgment without speaking about sin. God is not just angry because he's in a bad mood. God is only angry against the sin of man.